सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति। Chapter 17, the Law of Causation. Law of causation is the law of cause and effect. So in this we are studying first the glory or of the principle, and then what it consists of. It consists of two ideas: one, law of destiny, and the law of karma. And then you understand the principle of our experiences going on changing, that is birth and death. From there you come to a conclusion, that is the theory of reincarnation. These are the central ideas in the chapter. The supreme law, law of causation, the supreme law. The universe is an expansion of innumerable laws of nature. They are physical, chemical, biological, psychological, philosophical, and several other laws. These are all impeccable, infallible, each having a cause-effect relationship. A cause for an effect and an effect for a cause. Meticulous functioning of the countless laws is the law of causation. They seem to go in obedience to some mysterious controller, governor. That unknown, unseen governor is indeed indicated as Brahman, the Supreme God, the infinite power that holds the laws together, acting like a monarch to whom obedient subjects pay homage. The English poet John Milton puts this idea across simply in his sonnet on his blindness. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, posted over land and ocean without rest. The phenomenon of this world is therefore an endless expression of cause and effect. The incessant play of the law of causation, which has been functioning from the very beginning. A coconut seed always produced a coconut tree, and a coconut tree produced a coconut seed. A chicken produced an egg, and an egg a chicken. Where there is no cause and effect, there is no world. So first he is establishing what is the idea here. First one says the entire universe is governed by this one supreme principle known as the law of causation. Why is it supreme? Because all these fields of inquiry inquires into establishing the relationship between cause and effect. All the subjects, whether it is physics or chemistry or biology or psychology or economics or any field of inquiry you go study, all that they study is only establishing the link between cause, effect, effect, cause. What is the connection? How this cause produces that effect, including our market survey, statistics. We do. All this is what? Connecting cause and effect. If this effect is perceived, then we postulate that must be the cause. We see this condition in the market. That means something must have been the cause. So all the subjects, they are all inquiries are done doing what? Only one thing. What? Cause, effect. So therefore, every subject is governing only all those principles. All the subjects of inquiry, scientific inquiry, is all what? Cause-effect relationship. In this, what we postulate is this relationship functions with such meticulousness. The functioning of the law presupposes a lawgiver. There cannot be a law without a lawgiver. See, that is not possible for human intelligence to understand. We see the effect. When you see an effect, you also understand there has to be a cause for that effect. When you see a cause, you see that cause producing that effect. And this cause and effect never falters. Since there is no exceptions at all, we never see. That's what he is saying. Always coconut seed is producing only coconut tree. Never it has happened. We have planted a coconut seed and we got a mango tree out of it. Nor we have seen in a mango tree coconuts coming. Suddenly you see in a mango tree few rose flowers. You don't see that. Always mango seed gives mango tree, and mango tree produces mango seeds, and that mango seed produces mango trees. Mango seed, mango tree, mango tree, mango seed. What do we understand here? Now he doesn't say, he only says that much. And leaves. Now we have to derive. Seed, tree, chicken, egg, chicken, egg, chicken, egg. Goes on and on and on. Means it is a cycle. Cause, effect, effect, cause, cause, effect, effect, cause. This is a circular. This moves in a perfect cycle. In a cycle, what we have to understand? Cycle means it is a circle. In a circle, you would never be able to identify which is the starting point and which is the end point. If it is a straight line, you can establish starting point, end point. You can move, positive, you can move negative. You can do all that on a straight line. In a circle, which one you will call? What is the starting point? That's what he says. Eternally it keeps happening. It goes on and on and on. We will never know when it is going to end. You can never identify what is the starting point. The starting point of this you cannot know. Because every cause produces an effect, and that effect is nothing but a cause in another time, another form. That's it. In a vast span of time, you see at one point it looks like a cause, another point the same thing looks like an effect, another point this looks like a cause. Because if I had a seed, that seed wouldn't have come about in my hands without a tree producing that seed. So I go one back. Then what happens? That tree wouldn't have existed without a seed behind that to produce that tree. So again, we are back to the same position. And it goes infinite loop. Backwards it goes infinite, forwards it goes infinite. You will never be able to identify. However, one thing is for sure. What is it? Seed cannot come about without a tree. A tree will produce a seed. And seed will produce a tree. Tree will produce a seed. Cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. It goes on and on and on. Never there is a mistake. One. Second thing, what we understand here is meticulous functioning. He says there is no exceptions at all here. Coconut tree, coconut seed. No exception. Right? No exceptions at all. Every object is attracted towards Earth 32 feet per second per second. Anyone who puts his finger in fire, it will burn. Anything put in fire, it will burn. See, there is no exception. There is no sample of fire we have in the world, which is cool fire. Fire means hot, burning. It will, otherwise it is artificial. It's just, fantasy idea only you can have. You cannot bring it in reality. So every principle here functions with such meticulousness, without any exceptions. We automatically postulate, automatically that question comes. How is it possible that all these things can function with such meticulousness, such orderliness? Unless there is someone to watch over. Because that is what we experience in our life. Wherever there is no traffic constable, what is the condition of the traffic signal? Now, if the moment you see a traffic constable, instantly everybody stops. And surprisingly, we see people even coming 2-3 feet behind, because it is the zebra line comes. Because you are supposed to stop the vehicle before that. This cause and effect functions meticulous, no exceptions. There is no favorable, unfavorable, all this. So therefore, says it is been functioning from the very beginning like that. There is no time where we can think of where it did not function like that. So we ask this question, every dimension, when you look in, it looks always same, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. So there's no exceptions means, understood is what? It will not change. It will not change according to person. It will not change according to this causation never changes. You cannot change it. From now onwards, coconut seed will produce a mango tree. Not possible. It is fixed. Since it has been functioning like this with such meticulousness, we posit one. There must be a governor, which is just a postulation. Remember, there's no proof. This doesn't prove, but it is very difficult for us to account for that meticulous functioning of it without that. Without a governor, without some superpower, someone who is managing, very difficult for us to believe that all these things are happening with such meticulousness by itself. On its own, it's happening. Very difficult to understand that. This is one aspect of it. Right? This is just an aspect. That's about it. Don't take too much beyond that. That superpower is what we call as God. So we say what? That in the presence of God, all these laws are functioning. Exactly like in the presence of a king, every subject, in the presence of a manager, because that is what we see. Always the kids will start behaving themselves in the presence of parents. Parents are not there. If the father is not there, if the mother is not there, if the manager is not there, right? What will be the condition of that organization, or what will be the condition in the house? All of you must have watched that movie, Home Alone. Right? Whatever happens in that first 2-3 minutes is the reality. Okay. When they leave the boy at home and they go away, what happened for the next 5 minutes in that movie is the reality. After that and all is a fantasy. There is no possibility of anything like that to be done by any child. You see? But the first few minutes is what? That fellow will come, he will blast that music, he will throw things here and there, break things, and order all sorts of things over phone. All that. Look at the condition of that house. But the moment someone who is more powerful, assumption here is parents are supposed to be powerful than the child. That's an assumption. Right? A manager has to be the one who has more powers than the others in the office. So therefore, in the presence of that manager, everyone will function. In the presence of a king, all the ministers and all the subjects will behave themselves. That's what he says. His state is kingly. As it were, all these are behaving based on that we posit. This is one dimension only. But the essential aspect, what we derive out of it is this. There is no exception. It never falters, which means there is no exception. That cause will produce this effect will produce another cause. What you call as a cause is nothing but effect at another time. What are you calling as effect is cause at another time. What I call as a seed is a cause for the next tree. What I am calling as a seed can be called as an effect of the previous tree. So previous tree is the cause of the present seed, and the present seed becomes the cause of the future tree. That's all. Now here what we understand, our problem will never be with reference to, as I told you, you will never have a problem with reference to this. Coconut seed, coconut tree. coconut tree, coconut seed. This problem will not have. The real problem in life comes is only because this you can easily understand. Why you can understand this? Coconut seed, coconut tree, coconut tree, coconut seed, seed tree, chicken egg, chicken egg, chicken egg. You can understand that. Why you are able to understand that easily? Because it is visible. See, I can take you and show you. See, the hen is giving eggs and then wait for 1 week, 10 days, 15 days, whatever. And then hatches. What comes out of that is a chicken. You see that? Very easy. Same way, I can take you and plant a mango seed and ask you to watch over that every day. Keep looking at it every day. Don't miss. Don't go out anywhere. You wait. First year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, you see a tree and that tree starts yielding fruits. And when it starts giving fruits, what happens? You pluck that fruit and you say what? See, mango seed you planted, it came a tree and that tree produced mango seed again. It is very much visible for us. The problem we will have with reference to cause and effect relationship is where it is not visible. When it is not visible, then how you are going to understand that cause and effect? Is where you need to use a different equipment. That is why he goes on harping on building your intellect. Because it is intellect that is going to be seeing something beyond what is visible. The capacity to go beyond what is obvious, what is perceptible, what is visible, what can be experienced, experienceable, is what intellect is all about. So, how much you can see, how much you can hear is dependent upon how good your eyesight is, how good your hearing is. If you have a weak hearing, you go on asking, what did you say? Yeah. Immediately you keep coming closer. When you cannot see clearly, what you do? You come closer to the screen. Why? Because it is your eyesight is weak. Your hearing is weak. You can't see clearly. Same way, when your equipment, intellect is not having that clarity, it cannot penetrate and understand. It lacks that ability. So how much you would be able to understand that causation is not dependent upon your hearing or your seeing, your smelling and tasting and touching ability. It depends upon your ability to penetrate, ability to think, ability to rationalize, ability to reason. If you have developed it, then cause and effect would become easier for you to recognize. Otherwise, you cannot. Why? Because at any point of time, you will see only effect. At any point of time, you will see only cause. From that effect, you have to perceive the cause, or in the cause, you must have the capacity to see the effect. Right? In the seed, you must have the capacity to perceive a tree. When you see the tree, you must have the capacity to understand the seed. That ability depends upon the sharpness of your reasoning capacity. So you should have that penetrative intellect to see through. You see, otherwise it is not. If it is visible, it is so easy. That's why the example he gives is very easy. What is the difficulty? Sir, you see an effect. What is the effect you see? Sir, I have a problem. I am in misery. I have this loss. I'm going through something. How do you account for that? Because right now you can see only what you are experiencing, what you are going through. Or at this point of time, you can only take an action. But what this action is going to be resulting in future, who knows? You're saying, I'm going to get married. It is a decision, right? And then you get married. You're getting married. It's an action. What it is going to result in future? You're going to be recruiting a person, let's say, or you are going to make another person as a partner. Let us start a partnership business. If you say, you have no idea of what it is going to be leading you into in future. Isn't it? That's why all of us are very interested to go to live your past with your present knowledge. One of my uncles said this. If I would have known this, I would have purchased. Those people came and offered me, shares of few companies, they offered it. Simply take, man, just, 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees. Can't you pay 5,000? 5,000 rupees is like, nothing for 5,000 rupees I would have got. Today, the value of that, Ishwaran is telling. Today its value. I said, I don't know. If I had invested that 5,000 rupees then, today I would be having, 1.5 crores. He's regretting. Now imagine with this knowledge, if he can go back to that time, what he would have done? At any point of time, you will know either cause or you will know the effect. From the effect, you have to infer the cause. From the cause, you must have the capacity to project the effect. See, unless you have this, you can never understand what is the relationship of this law of causation to your life. See, in your life, you don't have the problem of coconut seed and coconut tree. See, unless you are into farming and have some land and you have some coconut trees with you. Otherwise, there's no connection we have. See, the law is infallible, means it is impartial, no exceptions. It will not be giving any, there is no favoritism here. There is no exceptions here. Man-made laws means what? There will be exceptions. For every law, we'll have one exception. All vehicles should stop when they see a red light, except ambulance. See, the moment you make a law, always we have immediately one exception to that. exception to that, exception to that. There is always exceptions. You say, in language, when they make a rule, they immediately give an exception to the rule. Exception to the rule, exception to the rule. And then surprisingly, they say Sanskrit language has more exceptions than rules. I don't know how that is possible. You know, very, very interesting language that is. One language has 9 grammar rules. Now, I don't know. See, how can there be 9 different grammar rules for one language? Huh? See, so much of exceptions, 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 exceptions. For every rule, there's an exception. This has to be done during this time. Exception. Always it has to be like that, sir? No, no, no. There is exception for that. Exception. But when it comes to the law of causation, coconut seed will produce a coconut tree. Means no exceptions. With such rigidity, absolute, fixation here. This gives us what? Because of this alone, we are able to predict life. Life is very predictable. Imagine there are exceptions to this. You can never predict. You can never think. You can never understand life. You can never infer anything. Always it has to be like that. So the moment I see a coconut tree, I can comfortably say, I must have planted a coconut seed. Right? Suppose imagine coconut tree can come out of mango seed, sometimes from flax seeds, sometimes from rose bushes. Sometimes nothing is needed. It will just come. Now, when I see a coconut tree, what will I understand? How I am going to correlate it? Life is pretty much predictable. Predictability of life is because of the certainty of the law. No exceptions. Yes. And that's the beauty here. Don't worry much about the first point. First point is this. First point is we postulate it is a supreme law. Why it is a supreme law? Because it is no exceptions. And it is giving us a possibility to postulate God. And those who are intelligent and rational enough will accept that possibility. Not that they come to a conclusion, remember. It is a postulation. That postulation is not a random postulation. It's not just a fantasy idea, remember. It is a well observed and calculated postulation. It's not suddenly from thin air we have started believing in God. See, it's not that. Here in Vedanta, these people say there is a governor. There must be a governor. Otherwise, how is it possible? Otherwise, it is not possible for us to account it. This is one idea. Then comes the next one. Then he continues with that. The law of causation governing the macrocosm applies equally to the microcosm. Every human being is subject to this law. It operates at the physical, mental, and intellectual levels. If the physical body has gone through a proper discipline of yoga and exercise, it would presently be hale and healthy. And if the body has had no proper physical training, being sensually indulgent, it would be pale and sickly. Similarly, the flow of thoughts and emotions towards the positive or negative would determine the nature of the present inner personality. So, what you are now is a result of what you have been doing in the past, dating back from this moment. And what you would be in the future would depend upon what you do from this moment. This is irrefragable law. So what is the understanding you get here? He says, first, he established the macrocosm. Macrocosm means universal, total. If the law is applicable to the total, the same law is applicable to individual also. Macrocosm means individual. Individual means you. It is applicable to you as well. So your life is also governed by this. And your life is governed by this, means it governs what? It governs your physical personality, your mental and intellectual personality. So at these three levels of your personality, this law functions. And he gives an example for that. If you exercise, if I am a musician today, that is because of what? In the past, I have studied music and I have practiced music. Therefore, I am a musician today. Today, I don't know music. Does it mean in 2025, will I continue to be in that same position? You say what? No, no, no. Suppose if I join a music class from today and then start practicing it, by 2025, I would be having the knowledge of music more than my knowledge of music today. So there are two aspects here. Yes, how this is functioning is the law of causation explains what says your present status, be it material, be it physical, be it emotional, be it intellectual, or your spiritual. All these positions of yours today is dependent, decided by your past, what you did in the past, your past actions, right? Now, when he says past actions, right, what determines the past action? Whenever you discuss with reference to action, immediately you need to understand action means actions backed by thoughts. Remember, chronology of action, right? Remember that idea. Even if you are not aware of that idea, it doesn't matter. Basic understanding you can have. Every act, when we say action, we are not referring to physical movements only. Remember, action should be backed by thought. What a layman will call as intention. Right? Intention is a thought, an idea. Okay. So, whatever you are doing with reference to your material is defining your current material status. Whatever you have been doing with reference to your physical, defining your physical status. Whatever you have been doing with reference to your emotional, intellectual, and spiritual defines your emotional, intellectual, spiritual status. So what is your current position of life is decided by what you did in the past. What you did means what? Actions. What actions? Actions get, classified into three things. At three levels, you perform actions. Right? That is what we say. Every ritual. Kayena vacha, manasendra, indriyaiva, buddhyatmanava, prakrite, swabhavat. All that. Through the body. Kaya, bodily actions. Then manasa, thought, indriya, all the indriyas. Yes. Buddhi, your desires or your intentions. This is one way. If this is too complex, they made it even simpler. Actions gets classified into three categories. But nowhere they refer only with reference to physical action. Remember, whenever we discuss action, you need to go either to chronology of action, very strict, or you come to this idea. Ritual gives you an idea of all this. Suppose if this is also difficult, they have classified this into three. Simpler one. What is it? Kayikam, Vachikam, Manasam. If this is also difficult, then they say it's not just the action, it is intention plus action. Or desire plus expression of the desire. So you can understand that in any way, depending upon your exposure to the subject, you can understand, but in all levels, the law will work. Okay, law will not change. All that you have done means action. When you say all this is understood in the past, whatever I have done in the past with reference to that particular field. If I have worked with reference to music, I'm a musician. If I have worked with reference to sports, I'm a sportsman. If I have worked with reference to business, I'm a businessman. So all this put together. So that is where we find it difficult when you move backwards from effect, when you are trying to move backwards to the cause. Problem is, which one you are going to point out now? Is it Manasam you are going to point out? You are going to refer to Vachikam, meaning words spoken, or physical action? Actually, you have done that. So, actions at the mental level, action at the speech level, action at the body level. All this is considered as action. Now, which one would be to pinpoint would be difficult, but generally we can understand with reference to past. That's what he says. So what you are is a result of what you have been doing in the past. Past refers to what? Past refers to dating back from this moment. From now to that. Now can be anything. Now can be this day or this week, this quarter, this year, or even this Janma. Right? Depending upon your ability to understand a moment. See, with reference to a person who is doing business this quarter, isn't it? Businessman will not be worried about a fraction of a second. Who will be worrying about a fraction of a second? This is a fellow who is running in Olympics final. That also not all the time. Only when he is running that 2.5 minutes. That's what someone told me. Usain Bolt, all his lifetime, in all the tournaments that he has participated in life, He has ran only for 7.5 minutes, it seems. The fellow finishes all 10 seconds, no. Starting eventing, starting before you can even blink, it is over. Now, put together, what we are going to have? Yes, all that he has done. I said, just 7.5 minutes. I can also run for 7.5 minutes. But to him, at that point of time, that moment is a second. Now, you don't immediately start asking the question, sir, what is this moment? The people will ask immediately, what is the meaning of this moment now? This moment depends upon the spectrum you take. See, this year, it could be this decade also. This year, this month, this week, this day, this hour, this minute law doesn't exist for you. This minute and this Allah, you can read in this, motivational talks they give. A fraction of a second makes a difference. To whom is the point? Right? To whom? At that moment, yes, it makes. That doesn't mean all the time you are going to worry about fraction of a second, fraction of a second, fraction of a second. You can't be living your life on fraction of a second. Okay, so understand this as any moment that you are sitting for analysis. Right now, I'm sitting to analyze. Am I a musician today? I am not. Why you are not a musician? Or why you are a sportsman? Because in the past you have been playing that sport. Therefore, you are a sportsman. So you have worked in that. Therefore, you are a product of that. You have not worked in that. Therefore, you are not a product of that. As simple as that. This is the simple idea he gives. From here, we take out few things. Now, before that, he covers one more idea, right? Which very subtly he indicates in the paragraph, explains in the next paragraph, right? The above law has no sway over the supreme self. It can only control the material equipments, affect your physical, mental, and intellectual personalities, and not the self within. Your real self is above the law of causation. It is not subjected to cause and effect. You must therefore leave the presence of your body, mind, and intellect and get to your divine center. Be yourself. You will then govern the world instead of the world governing you. Now, the external things are all defining your things. The moment you anchor yourself to the supreme self within, then it cannot. This law of causation cannot function with reference to the self. Why it cannot function with reference to the self? Law of causation can operate only in the circumference. Every circle has a center, right? The center is always what? No movement. The center is no movement, no action. Since there is no action at the level of the self, there is no cause, no effect. So that is how a person who identifies himself with the self and becomes the self, who we call as enlightened, has crossed over the cause and effect cycle. And he breaks this cause and effect cycle. In fact, the very idea of studying the law of causation is that See, this is a very peculiar law. We study this law to break it. We don't study this law to follow. Oh, let me know better. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. So let us know what is the law. No. Here, the law is given to us, explained, taught, detailed. All that is given with the idea that unnecessarily don't get stuck in this. How you can wriggle yourself out of this cycle of cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect cycle. How? Only by becoming the self. When you become the self, there is no possibility. This is the catch here. Why? Because the self is just a witness, sakshi. There is a witnessing principle functioning within you. That witnessing principle doesn't engage itself in any action, any thought, any word. It will not. It doesn't participate. Right? Since it is not participating, that witnessing personality can never be brought into the cycle of cause and effect. That is a catch here. So, as the unmoving axle is the one that keeps the wheel moving. The very fact that the wheel is moving presupposes the existence of an unmoving axle, is it not? That is what he said earlier. The very fact that there is a law of causation presupposes the existence of the government. The existence of law presupposes a lawgiver. You cannot have it. That is what he is saying. The unmoving, which supports the moving. What is moving? Everything in the world is moving. What is that? Law of causation is moving. Everything is moving. Moving in an order. What is order? Cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. This is the movement. The whole thing is moving in that direction of what? Cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. It just keeps on happening again and again and again. That is called life. Life is a movement. There is no possibility of a life without a movement. The fact that we are recognizing that movement, there has to be this. And that witnessing things, that witnessing one cannot be changing. If witnessing also changing, then that is also a movement. Then there is witnessing witness. There is something which is witnessing the witnessing. Then you have to go backward. Okay, sir, then that witnessing. So that witnessing should be not changing. Then what is it? One step back you have to go. Then you have to go one back, one back. But anytime you go, there has to be a point where there is a witnessing aspect in you which doesn't change. Now you have a choice. What is the choice? Suppose if this is not there, let's say, okay, suppose if this is not there, what would be the condition? You will be perennially stuck in that cycle of cause and effect. You can never get out of that. Now you have the choice. What is it? You can anchor yourself in that witnessing consciousness and go through all the changes, the cause and effect. See, in the presence of the witnessing factor, this law of causation, your thoughts, your actions, your mind functioning, everything comes into a perfect orderliness. The moment you take to that stand of a witness, not that you have to become a witness and all that. You see, you just have to assume the position of the self. Now, again, here, remember, we are only postulating, we are only inferring here. It's only inference. Because the established rule of life is what? Principle that we know is a movement is not possible without something supporting, which is unmoving. The unmoving has to support the moving for a movement to happen. Law of causation is moving. Therefore, there has to be something unmoving. Now, the question comes to me is, I have the choice to position myself as that unmoving and see the movement, or go and sit there in that movement. So when I move like this, what happens? This is what we refer as, in the presence of a higher power, the lower behaves properly. What is the higher power? The witnessing self is the higher power. The witnessing consciousness, when it is referred to internally, when the same witnessing consciousness is plucked out and presented externally, is what is referred as God. That's all. Suppose if you don't postulate, because you may be wondering why he has to postulate, why he is bringing in this idea of postulation of God suddenly. The fact that the law is functioning, there must be a lawgiver. Now, why do you have to postulate it? For what you need to posit that? You can proceed to study the law even without that, no? Now imagine, you remove that, what will be happening? Nothing is going to happen, isn't it? Right? Like I say, in Ramayana, right? Imagine Kaikeyi has not asked for the boon. What would have happened? Rama would have been coronated. Rama would have had a Rama Rajya, and Ravana would have had his Ravana Rajya. They may meet, they may not meet. We have no idea what would have happened. Definitely, Ramayana wouldn't have happened the way it has happened. Right? Now, that boon, that episode is such a critical one for Ramayana story. Right? Now, you take this story of insignificant one. I give you another one, which is a very, very casual one. Sabari, that old lady who gave all the juta fruits to Rama. Rama also ate that very nicely. Happily he had that. Very good, very, very tasty, he says. Okay. Now, she played a role again, because she is the one who directed Rama towards Sugriva. Where Sugriva is staying, he didn't know. So it is she who directed him. Oh, that is where he is, go and meet him. He will help you. Yeah. So she is important. Correct. Now, what is the necessity of a Guha character? The boatman. Right? What is that? Imagine that Guha character is not there. Rama came, he just saw that, he just crossed the river. He just walked along the river and he found a place where there is low tide, and he just walked across and disappeared in the jungle. Problem solved. Why that character has to come in? Not necessary. But that character is given such an importance? Because the first one Rama to acknowledge as a elder brother. Rama says, you are my elder brother, he says, because he is elder to him. Guha is elder to Rama. And he is a sort of a friend to the Asharatha also. So he says, you are my brother. My God, such an important one. Now, even if you remove that episode, there is no loss for Ramayana. Same way, even if you don't take all this into account, even if you don't postulate that supreme lawgiver, to understand law of karma, you don't have a problem. You don't require it. Then where this comes into picture is only when you ask that question, for what I have to study this law? Right? Now, why do you have to study the law? I have to study this law so that I can transcend it. If the transcendence is not the agenda to study this law of causation, then there is no point in studying this at all. See? So when you say, I am interested to transcend it, you need to know which is the weak spot. There is a key. You see, there is a lock. And then you should know how to use that key and the lock to escape. Otherwise, you can't escape. You will be stuck inside this cause and effect, because this cause and effect law he has already established. What is it? It will not budge. There is no exceptions that he has stated already. So it will not say, oh my God, you are doing such a nice work. You are a very good fellow. Therefore, what I'm going to do, I will help you to transcend it. It will not. It will give you all the facilities and things and all that inside. Like if you are a very good fellow, if you behave properly, the jailer can give you what? Extra leniency towards you. But you will be inside the jail only. You cannot go out. If you have to get yourself released from this, you need to know. There is a clue. This is the clue he gives. He says, this law cannot function at this stage, at this level. And what is that? Because it is the witnessing one. In that presence of that witnessing consciousness, which is not moving, and because of that non-moving only, the moving is possible. Therefore, who is powerful? You want to draw a circle, which one you put first? The center or the periphery? Center comes first. You see, that is a catch. The non-moving aspect is the essence. So in the presence of that, automatically things will function. So your possibility is there for you now. What is it? You are already having the law functioning, and that law has that fixation, no exception, predictability, all that is there. Also, what is it? He gives a clue that it has no jurisdiction over the self. And that self is there in you. And if you can anchor yourself, assume yourself to be that witnessing consciousness, and see this witnessing is not Brahman, okay? This witnessing consciousness, what I am referring to, is also another form of thinking only, which is what the intellect does. Intellect takes that position. It assumes that position of witnessing. It's not God, remember. This is done by the intellect. It is intellect that assumes that position. Once you take that position, what happens? Law of karma says, I can't do anything with you now. I'm out. Once you become a witness, then your intellect gets so alert and alive. At the first appearance of the thought, you catch it. You hold it. So once you hold it, there is no problem of it furthering itself. Thereby, you get that release. And that is what he means by you will govern the world instead of the world governing you. You govern the world, don't immediately think suddenly from tomorrow, I will become the prime minister of the country or I will become the president of World Bank. Not in that sense. Okay. You become the master. You get that control. You pull the strings. Now the world is pulling. Now you learn to pull the strings only when you take a position of this witnessing consciousness. Witnessing self. Self is this. But this witnessing is not Brahman, remember. Okay. It cannot operate there. So since it cannot operate there, I assume the position of that witnessing. This is the intellectual exercise. This is what you are supposed to do here. So from here, he goes on to explaining the law now. Now the explanation of the law will come. Right? He is only giving an introduction here. He just gave a basic intro here to the very idea of the law. It is to escape, he said. Right. We'll see more in the next class.